Hey all, and welcome back to Fuzzy Ducks Gaming, and the first video on the channel on Path of Exile 2 after the launch. I've been taking a while to bring a video out just because I've been absolutely loving the game and haven't want to put it down to make a video. So what I thought I'd do is just go through my monk, how it's currently set up, and just some of the troubles I had leveling and how I felt the class was in general. So overall, the monk has been a ton of fun. It's definitely my kind of playstyle, super quick, agile, slightly squishy, but actually not too bad once you get geared. I had a bit of a nightmare leveling because I just had no currency or items drop. So I was running around with gear that was probably 3 to 4 acts out of date, no resistances, no damage. So I've died well over 100 times going through the campaign. But now I've got to maps and actually been able to grind some tier 1 maps to get some gear and get some currency, even though it was still dropping very sparsely. The build now feels much better. So the way I've decided to try and build this character is cold and lightning combined. Originally it was pure lightning. Damage wise it was probably double what I'm doing at the moment, but without freeze it really does leave you vulnerable to ranged enemies, getting swarmed by enemies. So just adding in some cold attacks and skills into the build has made it feel a lot better. This build is kind of a combination of my ideas and then what I've seen other people do, and I've tried to basically use everything I've learned from watching other people to try and figure out exactly what I want to do. So while the footage plays out in the background, I'll just talk about my pros and cons I think so far of the game. Generally it's mostly positive. The combat is really good. I'm super addicted playing whenever I can, but I do feel, although this might have been fixed now, that loot drops are just nowhere near enough. It's fine for loot drops to be missing if you're getting enough currency to craft, but I think I had enough currency orbs to maybe craft 1.5 to 2 items for the whole playthrough. And obviously if you end up hitting bad mods, then you're basically left with nothing. Then it's a case of just going to vendors every time you level up to check for items. And that's one thing that I would definitely recommend you do if you're still playing through the campaign, is blue items for the most part can be better than rare if they've got 2 decent mods on. So keep checking the vendors if you need upgrades and save your gold for that. The only other issue I probably really have is ranged enemies seem a little bit OP if you're a build that can't close gaps very quickly, but I have fixed that in the build to make sure we're kind of zooming around packs, and it's got as close to PoE 1 style as I want to get it, and we'll go through that in a moment. The main bugbear for me is ascendancies. I have no idea how to get my 3rd and 4th ascendancy. I had an ultimatum drop with 7 rounds, which is the 3rd most difficult one, so I assumed that would give me my 5th and 6th points. Slogged my way through it, didn't get an ascendancy, and I haven't had a trial of Second drop that's 3 floors because I think that's going to be the only other way to do it. I'm a bit bummed. I don't really like either of the trials, but I would rather do the ultimatum one, even though it is a bit more rippy, because I'm just not a massive fan of the honor mechanic. So I probably won't do any ascendancy until maybe they address how to get them and actually explain what you've got to do. It would be really nice, which I don't know if they're going to implement, is if in Cruel, when you go to do your redo your ascendancies, you actually get the currency to drop and you can do it that way, because it feels like I'm going to be, well, I'm level 72 and I'm in tier 2 to 3 maps. If I drop something that's the 3rd trial, that just seems a bit wrong at this level. I feel like you should be getting that in a campaign like in Path of Exile 1, but it might be something that they address. They're my 2 real sticking points at the moment. Other than that, I'm having an absolute blast. So let's go through the skill tree very quickly. The skill combinations, you can ignore the gems a little bit because I've only had a couple of jewelers drops. I only have a couple of 4 links, and I don't know if they're optimal, but they're working really well. But what I'll do is explain my reasoning behind why I pick each support gem. So let's go quickly into the passive tree first. So for my 2 ascendancy points, I've gone Sunder My Enemies, which is really strong anyway. It's very easy to get like 25 to 30% crit chance, which is already worthwhile taking this node if you then ignoring their resistances every time you crit. It helps with your ailment build up and everything else. So yeah, just a really good node and much stronger than I thought it would be. And then we're also I Am Thunder because that's where I passed at the beginning. And Shock Ground is nice, but it doesn't really do a ton because if you're shocking the enemy anyway, you don't really need Shock Ground. And then Chill Ground is probably a little bit better, but again, if you're chilling areas, this doesn't do very much anyway. So you're basically taking these points for 10% of extra damage. The reason I wanted to get my ascendancy is I would drop this and then go Lead Me Through the Grace and Protect Me from Harm, because I've got something like 55 to 60% evasion, so that would be half to about 33. and then that would give me physical damage reduction. I can then scale much more into evasion and maybe get each to 40% would be really, really nice. But at the moment, I'm not 100% sure where I go. We might go scatter them to the winds, or we might even go more energy and do some cast on crit stuff. I have no idea. I just know I'd like to try out these two to see what it feels like. In terms of the skill tree, we take in skill speed, crit chance, and then shock chance. This was when I was full lightning. I still think it's pretty good though. 5% as extra lightning and increased chance of shock is pretty decent. Up here to get crit nodes. We go up here to take Ellie nodes for chilling and shocking because we do both really frequently. Lots of crit nodes over here. We take resonance, which I'll come back to. Deep trance, which is just to get slightly reduced cost of attacks and increase attack speed, just so I don't permanently have to spam a mana flask. And then we've got some increased evasion here just because I was nearby. I thought, why not take it? We go down here to get some attack speed and attack damage. This node's really nice, +2 to max power charges and 60% crit damage bonus if we've consumed power charges recently. And I consume them every 5 seconds. I'm assuming recently is still 4 seconds. So most of the time, this is 60% increased crit damage and +2 power charges. I'll explain why that's important when we come onto the skills section. First mistake. I read increased defenses with quarterstaves. That's not it. It's with a staff and we don't use a staff. So actually, these are bad. I can get rid of these 3. We've got attack speed with quarterstaves and then accuracy and crit, and then you just go down here to get more crit. And this one here, basically when you consume charges, which we do use a skill for, it counts as consuming an additional power charge. And then get more evasion over here and more dexterity. And then these crit nodes here are very, very juicy. Crit chance intelligence, crit damage strength, and then +1 to base critical strike chance is really, really nice. I've got decent crit strike on my weapon. It gives me 15% base in total, which makes it much easier to scale it. I do, like I say, can drop these 3 points because I misread what they do. So we can go take something else, which we'll do after the video. In terms of the skills, if we go into the panel, again, like I say, you can ignore the gems in some part because I've not had many jewelers drop. So I've got Whirling Assault, which I'm testing because I've seen people doing it just to activate the bell because it attacks quicker. I don't know 100% if it does any more than just using Ice Strike, but we've got Whirling Assault, Close Combat, and then Momentum because you move all the time when you're using Whirling Assault. Shattering Palm is kind of the bread and butter of the clear of this build, and we'll go through that when I do a quick showcase. I've got Inevitable Critical linked to it. It's not actually a good gem for this. I read this wrong. I thought it gave you 100% straight away and then it increased it until you crit. It doesn't, so I need to find some support gems to go in here. But essentially anything we've got that adds to freeze chance and damage would be fine in here. Tempest Bell I've got linked to Magnified Effect because I want more AoE. Heavy Swing because more fizz damage, less attack speed. And then I use Font of Rage here. Basically, when you put the bell down, you get a rage font that gives you 2 rage every second. Herald of Ice linked to Cold Infusion because I might as well link it in there. Herald of Ice only does cold damage, so just making it do a little bit more damage is pretty decent. Haven't put a 3rd gem in there yet. I've got Herald of Thunder. I'm not sure this is really needed. It gives a little bit of lightning damage. And then just Clarity linked to here so I can again increase my mana regeneration. Main clearing skill is Ice Strike. So it's Ice Strike, Primal Armament, which is just more Ellie damage, Martial Tempo for more attack speed, and then Rage to get 3 rage on melee hit. This combined with the bell and the font, you get to 30 rage really, really easily. Charge Staff is the skill we're using to consume power charges, so I'm going to go back to the skill tree in a minute to explain the interactions. But it's Charge Staff linked to Perpetual Charge, so essentially a 35% chance when I consume my charges that they don't get consumed, and then I can consume them again. Persistence gives me more skill effect duration. This isn't necessarily needed, but it means when I've got my 5 charges consumed, I get about 45 seconds, so it can help on those really big maps where you have to run like 25 seconds to find the next pack because you're backtracking. And then Lightning Infusion, this only does lightning damage, so it makes sense just to do extra lightning damage. The way this skill works is that every power charge you consume, it adds 1 to 12 lightning attack damage. And then that's why we're scaling it with these support gems. It works really well. It shoots out projectiles, it shocks. It's just a really, really good use of power charges. Frozen Locust is for an oh shit moment. So it basically will freeze anything when you drop it and then hit it. So if I get overwhelmed and I can't drop my bell because it's too slow to get down, I'll just drop Frozen Locust, explode the pack. Frost Nexus, create chill ground when you freeze an enemy, and then just increase freeze duration on enemies to give me more time to kill everything if I need it. And then last but not least, this ties back into the power charge, but we will go to the skill tree first before we look at it. And we'll have a read of Resonance. So it's gain power charges instead of frenzy charges, frenzy instead of endurance, and endurance instead of power charges. This works really well because we can just basically guarantee the automation of power charges. I got this from watching one of Neversink's videos. So you can see combat frenzy is gain a frenzy charge when you freeze, electrocute, or pin an enemy no more than every 5.8 seconds. And we literally freeze all the time. The only thing I've linked to this is Profusion, which is skills have a 50% chance to grant an additional charge. So it could be, so basically 1 in 2 times that you freeze an enemy, you're going to get 2 charges. You then consume that charge, it starts your charge staff, and this charge staff, it stacks. So it's not like you have to wait until you're out to use it. You can keep using it to refresh your staff to get up to your maximum duration and your maximum damage. It works really well. It's never ever down apart from the first 2 seconds of combat. Even on bosses will freeze with the combination so you can get your charges going. It works really nicely, adds all that boosted lightning damage and gives you projectiles. It's just, this has been such a good fun combination of skills. And this is kind of the only lightning part. Herald of Thunder and then Charge Staff, but Charge Staff does deal a lot of damage, so we shock all the time as well. So I'm making use of the shock and chill parts of the skill tree. It just works really well. It's similar to what other people are doing. It's kind of just built my own way. So what I plan to do from here is really just upgrade my gear. I've been working on this base gear set for hours. I haven't gone to trade. I've just been using exalts to try and craft my own gear. So I've been doing what everyone else has probably been doing. Picking wire items up off the ground. Transmute, is it any good? Yes. Augment, is it still good? Yes. Regal, exalt, done. So we've got helmet with a ton of life and tiny bit of resistances and attributes. The body armor, I still need to decide whether I want to push this further with exalts because it's not great, but it has got a couple of middle resistances and mediocre life. So I probably will just chuck some exalts on this. The amulet is looking like it could be pretty nice. It is low on resistances, but it's got huge life. Rarity is an implicit, mana regen and crit damage. They're quite useful stats for me. This ring is rubbish. So I've had this, since level 32. It's nothing really. Resistances and lightning resistance. So this is the item I need to replace to hopefully then get me res capped. This ring's looking like it's going to be juicy if we can get life on it. It's got 30% lightning resistance, 32 fire, tiny bit of all melee res, some evasion and mana. The boots I've had for ages, not very good. I think I have a prefix left. If this slams movement speed, I'm happy. The belt, very good base, but again, need some exalts to carry on crafting it. The gloves, I think again, are pretty decent for this stage. They've got some lightning damage, fizz damage, life and cold res. And the staff I've had since very early on. I think I got this Act 2 crawl maybe. And again, I've just been crafting it. It's not amazing, but the 4 base crit attack speed and LE damage with attacks is really nice. But it does have fairly low base physical and lightning, but it's absolutely doing the job for now. At some point it'll need replacing, but not yet. And I just need to add one more socket into this and see if I can find a soul core that goes in it nicely, or we'll just stick another one of these glacier runes and they add a little bit of damage. Charms, I'm using use when become frozen. I don't know if there's a better one to use, and in all honesty, I haven't noticed it making that much effect. I managed to get an absolutely awesome life flask, which is 68% increase amount recovered and reduced charges. So I get 1600 life back over 3 seconds, which is pretty huge. And mana flask is what it is. I don't have to use it that often, so it doesn't really need to be amazing. And then I've picked up just a couple of jewels, but it's literally just lobbing in what I pick up. So I've got 1 rage on melee hit with some melee damage. We have 1 down here, which is mana recovery flask, lightning penetration, which only affects the non-crits. And then I think we have 1 over here, which is attack speed and LE damage. So yeah, nothing amazing, but it's better than nothing. So before we sign off, I'll just do a very quick showcase of how the build works. I'm not going to go and do a whole map because a lot of the time you're kind of spending it running around doing not a lot. I am using controller. I'm finding controller support really, really nice. I couldn't get on with WASD, and click to move felt pretty floaty and horrible for attacking. So we're going with controller, and yeah, I'm really loving using a controller for this game. It works really well. Just makes it a bit easier on my hands as well. I'm still only doing like tier 1 and 2 maps. I'm level like 72, I believe. I don't really feel the need to be any higher at the moment. I'm getting enough XP. I'll soon have to start moving up to like 3s and 4s. So we'll go and run this tier 2 map. They did say they'd buffed the mods on them. That is an absolutely awful one. The chests are garbage anyway, and just getting more of them doesn't help much. And then we got shot ground. Okay. I will show you my resistances quickly, actually. They are a little bit balked because I don't have any cold resistance. Yeah, over on lightning, fire's nearly there, but cold, yeah, 41%. Evasion's pretty nice at 54%, but it definitely needs to be pushed more if I want to take that ascendancy. So let's go and see where we've got to. I don't really want to do it. Oh, we could do it. No, the hideout ones can be a bit rough, but I guess we could do the hideout one because these are nice and quick, and I'll explain kind of the play style. These can be a bit difficult. You can get really swarmed on these, but we'll stick this one in. And it's got beyond, and it will definitely trigger because the mobs are packed into these. So the rotation is essentially shatter in palm to mark an enemy. When you kill that enemy, they explode. Herald explodes as well because they'll be shattered, and it just chunks and kills, you know, half the screen. Then you get power charges because of that. You consume them to get lightning damage, and you rinse and repeat. That's it. It plays sort of like Flicker Strike because Ice Strike does dash short gaps between enemies. You could obviously use Flicker Strike if you wanted to. You'll have spare power charges, but I've not dabbled with it yet. And then you just use the bell on rares, and if you feel you get stuck, you use Frozen Locust to just give yourself some time and freeze everything. So we'll go in and hope we can survive. This first game of the day, I might be a little bit rusty. Yep, these are the enemies that can't be frozen as well, which is great. And we got a boss straight away. Oh no, they can be frozen. Cool. There we go. So that's him done. Oh, is that my Sanctum finally dropping? I better go and pick that up just in case I die. I need those, and we'll take that for the socket. Yeah, so not the best start getting an elite straight away, but we'll try and do it again with this pack. So you dash in, explode, another elite. Bit tanky, this one. Pick up this stuff, more sockets. Oh no, I've got too much stuff. We'll come back for that. I'm pretty sure we won't die. As I say, I need movement speed on boots. This feels pretty terrible. Yep, that's when you use Frozen Locust like that, because I got stunned. So apparently that's map complete, even though this dude's still alive. Right, done. So that was a bit hectic. The hideout ones always are a bit more difficult because you don't get in the flow of combat. First map of the day as well. I have no idea if any Beyond spawned. I don't think it did. So we're going to have to go and loot this stuff, which I will do after the video's finished. So that's kind of it for a mini showcase. This wasn't a good example. I'm tired. I didn't really use the skills properly, but we still got through it. And it did show a good example of when you need to use Frozen Locust. If you can see your life get chunked, you get surrounded. Don't try and dodge roll. It won't do anything. Use Frozen Locust, freeze those enemies, shatter them, get out of harm's way, and get onto the next pack of enemies. That's it for the video. Thanks very much for watching. Hope you're having a blast. Take care, and see you in the next one.